Welcome back, guys. One more thing we want to go through with you real quick is the proper setup of a Blendtec booth and what that should look like. Now, you'll notice the space that we have here is very clean. It's well kept. The blender between demonstrations, the jars between demonstrations, all the videos you watched, we've kept counters wiped down, things in place and very well kept. If you have dirty counters, if you have a mess, if you have bottles with things and syrups running down the side of them, it looks messy. When things look messy, people don't trust the food that you are serving. When they don't trust the food that you're serving, it's hard to build a crowd, to do a good demonstration, and to actually sell blenders. Presentation is everything in this business. So we wanted to walk through real quickly some of those key things. Again, keeping everything wiped down, the face of your blender, the fit and finish of everything from the table to the serving trays, to all of your spices, seasonings, everything that you have on that counter. You're going to notice again, Blendtec logo, front of the booth. It's centered, it's square, it looks good. These drapes and curtains, they get washed after every show. If you ever have a problem or a major spill, take them home at night, wash them, bring them back the next day. A couple more important things that you're going to notice. The allergy alert sign, this is very important. It has to be hung up as well, okay? Now we'll walk you actually around to the back side of this booth, and we'll show you how this looks as well. All right, guys, thanks for sticking with us. Now that we've made our way around to the back side of the booth, there's a couple of really important things that I want to point out to you. For starters, you'll notice throughout the demonstration, I never had to take my gloves and touch a trash can or a lid. These trash cans are very important. They're what's going to come with your booth. It's also very important that if anything ever happens to it, that you replace it and then expense that trash can. You'll see that this conceals all of the ugly trash that is in there and the different smoothies and things that have been thrown in there all day long. Not only does it conceal it, but I don't cross-contaminate my gloves when I'm using them and opening it. It has that nice foot pedestal on it. It's simply easy use access right there. It also keeps the members and customers at your specific retail location from using that trash can as well. So it becomes just yours, which makes it really nice. You'll have to dump it a whole lot less often. Now, as you make your way over here, you'll notice when we washed our jars, we'd set the jar up here. We would use clean tap water, about a cup of it, a drop of dish soap, and we'd hold the pulse key on the front of the machine for about 5 seconds. That washes your jar. Now, there's 3 steps here. There's a wash, then second is a rinse, third is a sanitize. You need to follow that very specific order. Down here, after you wash, you will rinse your bin here in the clean rinse water, and then in the end, you will sanitize it. Now, the other thing that's important, you can see here these waters are starting to turn gray and get cloudy. We've done about 10 to 15 demonstrations here. When your waters start to look like this, it is time to change them. If you are in a busy club and you find that they start looking like this, you may be in a certain club where you've got to change those waters 2 to 3 times a day. It takes 5 minutes. It's not a big deal. It is okay to run back and do that. We want to make sure that you meet health code and that you're keeping people safe. So keep those clean and presentable looking as well. Now, as we make our way over here, you'll notice all of our produce that is not cut stays in these trays. Okay? So grapes, strawberries, bananas, you're okay to put this stuff here. You want to wash, rinse, and sanitize these trays every single night, but you can store this here. In the top, you can actually store some of those things that you need to keep safe and away from children or people that are walking through the warehouse, like knives. Make sure the sheath always stays on them. As much of a pain as it is to slide this on and off, it's another protective barrier to make sure that we don't have a liability. You can store multiple things in here that you need to that are dry goods. Now, it's important to realize that once you cut into a fruit, whether it's an orange, an apple, a pineapple, whatever that fruit is, once you cut into it, you need to make sure that it goes into a Ziploc bag and that it stays in your cooler in a separate spot. I'm actually going to pull this cooler down and we'll show you how these should look. You'll notice here we have our serving ice on your right-hand side, and then we have the different things, like our pineapples, apples, oranges, things that we've cut into, in separate Ziploc bags on ice, separate from the serving ice. We have a divider in here. Your display will actually come with all of the things that you need. There will be another cutting board that you can use to separate those here. You also have the option of using this second cooler here on the bottom to store excess produce in. You can do this, or you can just have the one cooler on the ground, and you can store your excess produce and other goods in the refrigerator in the back. So it'll help you keep things nice, neat, and clean. Okay? Now, you're actually going to notice as we work our way over here, there's two different types of booth setups. This is a booth that you would typically see in a Sam's Club or a lot of our other retailers, okay? You'll notice that it comes with this setup here, which you can fill with your necessary items. We've got serving gloves, we have Ziploc bags and excess cups, trash bags, maybe an extra jar. I like to store all of my health permits and different things in here as well. You want to make sure and have those health permits on you at all times for the specific retailer that you're in and for the state that you are in as well. Now, you'll notice that our sanitizing agent, this is the only thing that you are allowed to clean up your booth with. This is the same sanitizer spray that goes into your bin, only you have it separate in a spray bottle here. This will be used to spray down the blender, base, to clean coolers, to clean tables. Again, you want to keep things cleaned and wiped down after every single demonstration. This is the only chemical that you are allowed to have at the booth. No Clorox wipes, no Windex, none of that stuff. It needs to stay out. It is not food safe. Now, you'll notice on top here we've actually got our speakers set up. They're nice, neat, and clean. You'll notice if we were in a club right now, we'd have a pallet of blenders here most likely. One thing that you're going to notice is we do not have a setup to where we have to use that pallet of blenders as a shelving storage unit. Everything that you need will fit right into this booth. Anything that's excess needs to either be left in your car or put in a grocery cart labeled BlendTech and put in the cooler or the freezer, depending on what you have and where it needs to go. But again, this clean, simple setup. Also, one thing you probably need to be made aware of, you are responsible for 10 feet in every direction of where you stand at this demo booth. So if a spill happens, you're responsible for that area. Please keep it swept up. You'll notice at the end of the day, I sweep up this area, I wipe it down, I make sure that the floor is kept clean and that there's no spills. The retailers expect you to take care of that space. So please do your due diligence and make sure that you are taking care of those as well. Now, in many clubs, you may run into situations where the manager wants something slightly different than this setup. Now, we have this setup because it's what's been approved by the corporate retailers. However, a lot of times you'll get into a club or a different retail location, and the general manager of that location is going to want to see things done differently. If they do, that is okay. Please comply, give them what they want. The point is we have this generalized setup because it works well 90% of the time. But if you run into a scenario where it needs to be changed a little bit to make them happy, please do so. Just keep in touch with your manager and make sure he knows what's happening so that he can let the rest of the team know how things are different at that specific location when they come back. Now, the other things that are important that I want to make sure and cover with you, you'll notice men clean shave every morning. If you have any scruff, 5 o'clock shadow, any of those things, you need to have a beard net on. Okay. Now, we don't do it in the demonstrations because we like to be able to have you see us here in the entirety. But when you are demonstrating, males and females must wear hair nets and ball caps as well. Those hair nets need to be visible. They need to be able to be seen with the ball cap over the top of them. Food safety is our #1 concern. Wash hands anytime that they're contaminated, and then change and put on a new pair of gloves. Please don't use the same pair of gloves for half the day or turn them inside out and continue to use them. Those things don't work. They're not sanitary. Simply wash your hands, paper towel dry them, and put on a new pair of gloves. Those things are very, very important. Again, health permits, have them on you. Costco also has a specific health permit just for demonstrating in Costco. And then on top of that, you would need the state and county or city permit. Your manager can give you the links to get the right permits for your specific scenario. It's also important, speaking of safety, there's an on-off switch on the back of the blender here. Now, that's great for the consumer when they get home. They can turn their blender off and it's not using the power to run that LCD screen on the front of the machine. Okay? The reality of it is this is a safety feature for us as demonstrators. When you leave that booth, we need to make sure that this is turned off and that the jars are off of the blender, that the knives are put away, that everything's wiped down and looks clean. We want to make sure that there's no liability that a little kid or a teenager, even an adult for that matter, could turn this thing on and hurt themselves. So please make sure and follow that protocol. Again, if you have any questions, use common sense, reach out to your manager to clarify. That's what they're there for. They will help you. We appreciate it. Have a great day.